The next time you raise your phone to take a photograph, consider the tiny sliver of silicon doing the actual seeing. Behind the lens sits a small chip that converts light into data, the true eye of the camera. And across a remarkable share of the world's phones from many different brands, that eye was made by a single company. You may associate its name with music players or games consoles, but it quietly supplies the vision for much of the connected world. It is called Sony, and this is a series about the companies that run the world. Sony occupies a genuinely unusual position because it is really two very different giants living inside one company. On one side, it is the world's leading maker of the image sensors that let cameras see, an invisible component tucked inside billions of devices. On the other, it is a sprawling entertainment empire, a maker of games, music, and films. It owns, in other words, both a crucial piece of the hardware and vast libraries of the culture that hardware delivers. Let us start with the eyes, because that is the most overlooked source of its power. The image sensor is arguably the single most important part of any modern camera, the piece that determines how much light it gathers and how good the picture can be. It is fiendishly difficult to make well, and for years, Sony has been the runaway leader, its sensors prized as the best in the business and fitted inside the finest phones on earth. And here is the striking part. Sony does not just supply the cameras of its own devices. It sells its finest image sensors to its rivals, including, for years, the cameras inside Apple's iPhones. So when you marvel at the photographs from almost any premium phone, whatever logo is on the back, there is a strong chance you are, in fact, looking through a Sony eye without ever knowing it. The dominance is best captured in a single figure. Sony makes roughly half of all the image sensors in the world's smartphones, a commanding lead in one of the most essential components of modern life. In a very real sense, a huge fraction of all the photographs humanity now takes, billions upon billions of them, are captured through silicon designed and built by this one Japanese company. To understand how Sony arrived here, you have to know that it was once the most glamorous name in consumer electronics. In its heyday, it gave the world the Walkman, the Trinitron television, and a string of iconic gadgets that defined their eras. For a time, Sony was to electronics what Apple would later become, the byword for desirable, beautifully made technology that everyone wanted to own. But glory faded, as it so often does. In the great gadget wars of the digital age, Sony stumbled. It was outmaneuvered in phones and portable music, and its once dominant televisions were undercut by rivals like Samsung. The company that had defined cool consumer electronics found itself, for a while, lost and unprofitable, searching for a new reason to exist in a world it no longer ruled. Its answer was a quiet and brilliant reinvention. Instead of only chasing the flashy finished gadgets it was losing, Sony leaned into two things. It did better than almost anyone: the invisible components others needed, above all image sensors, and the entertainment content that people love. It shifted from selling you the device towards selling the eye inside everyone's device, and the games and music and films that fill our leisure. Consider the games. Sony's PlayStation is one of the two dominant forces in the console world, a platform with a vast and loyal community and its own store taking a cut of a huge digital economy of games. It competes fiercely with Microsoft's Xbox and with Nintendo's very different world, but the PlayStation remains one of the great fortresses of interactive entertainment and a powerful engine of Sony's profit. Then there is the rest of the culture it owns. Sony Music is one of the three great record labels that dominate the entire recorded music industry. And Sony Pictures is a major Hollywood studio, with a vast catalog of films to its name. It has also placed a shrewd bet on Japanese animation. Through its position in anime and streaming, Sony holds a commanding stake in one of the fastest growing corners of global entertainment. Across music, film, and games, it owns astonishing amounts of what the world actually watches, hears, and plays. That points to its two very different moats. In sensors, the moat is sheer depth. Decades of relentless research and manufacturing skill in a component so hard that rivals like Omnivision and Samsung chase it from behind. In entertainment, the moat is ownership itself, of beloved content and platforms, the games, the songs, and the stories that people return to again and again. Very few companies on earth hold two such utterly different fortresses at once. Now we arrive at the question this series always asks of what would break if Sony vanished, and the answer touches both halves. The cameras in a vast share of the world's phones would suddenly lose access to their finest eyes, degrading the photography of many brands at once, and a great pillar of gaming, music, and film would fall away. In both hardware and culture, its disappearance would leave a hole that could not quickly be filled. Which brings us to the uncomfortable question, in a quietly profound form. How much of what humanity now sees and captures, the vast, endless river of images that defines our age, flows through the sensors of a single company, entirely invisibly? We think of photography as belonging to whichever phone brand we bought. In truth, a striking amount of the world's seeing is being done through the silicon of one firm. To be fair, and it genuinely deserves saying, both of Sony's empires rest on real and admirable achievement. Its image sensors are a triumph of engineering that has made the cameras in everyone's pocket astonishingly good. And its games, music, and films have brought genuine joy and artistry to billions of people across the world. This is a company that has enriched modern life in ways that go far beyond mere market power. And that is the deeper lesson of this particular giant. When you lose the war for the flashy final product, there is another, quieter victory available to own the irreplaceable component inside everyone's product and the content that everyone consumes. Sony understood that owning the eye inside every camera and the stories on every screen can be a far more durable kind of power than simply making the most fashionable gadget of the year. So the next time you capture a moment on any phone at all and admire how vivid and clear it looks, spare a thought for the invisible eye that saw it. There is a real chance that the very ability of your device to see the world was designed and built by one company, the same company, quite possibly, behind the last song you streamed or the last game you played, quietly present at both ends of your day.